Hi, this is Jan Duwe from Behringer. I'd like to give you a short overview of the V2 that we're just launching first day at NAMM tomorrow morning.
Version 2 software for?
The version 2 software for the X32.
Ah, okay, right.
Sorry. So we've got loads of small incremental workflow improvements. I don't want to show you everything, but there are some major aspects that we've taken a lot of care of. One thing is the complete scene management, which has been revised in a very original way. We found that over the past 2 years, a lot of people in the theater business were using X32, and they came up with their own requirements, and everybody had a different view on things. So we thought we need to come up with a complete new concept, and the concept behind it is, on one hand, we want to stick compatible to the old scenes, so that's what you get here. That's the original 100 X32 scenes that we had before, but we added two things on top. One is what we call snippets. It's a small section of the data set of the console, rather than the full state of the console. We only have...
So you can do a subset?
Yeah, it's very specific focus of something that interests you. For example, could be a number of input channels for the vocalist, and you just want to store the EQs or the preamp settings or things like that, or mute status. And then you can focus to a specific parameter set. You choose which parameter and which channels should be affected. And then you can store only these parameters and reload them anytime you want. So that's an opposite concept to the scenes, where the scenes store everything. Here you specifically store what is needed in a specific situation. So you've got two alternative concepts, 100 storages each, and they can be combined in what we call queues. So the queue lists can include, I think 500 different entries, and they can each have a scene and a snippet recalled automatically. So that is a huge variety of things and how you could get into action. So that's a very different concept. Then the library functions are much more convenient now. You see there's loads of artist presets from studios like here, and then we have presets from Earth, Wind and Fire sound guys and Living Color sound guys, and they were writing presets for us. And that's channel presets and effects presets. And the library functions now also allow to select multiple entries and store them to disk and recall them, so that's much more convenient than before. In addition to that, the next major update has been done to the effects section. Originally, there were some vintage reverb algorithms, but other than that, it's more technical effects that we had before. And now we're adding on top a range of vintage gear, analog vintage gear, that's very faithfully modeled here. So if you look to the effects section, for example, this is a Pultec EQ emulation. And I have to say, originally I was a bit reluctant to add this on top because we have so powerful signal processing in the channels already, that I thought, who would need another EQ? But then I found out that the user interface and also the sound character of these modeled analog classics is really different, and the basic concept behind it was that we want to provide everything with a firmware update which is free of charge, as compared to other people who would buy, say, Waves Sound Grid just to bring in their plugins from a computer and perform the same thing. So we are adding on top something like a plugin, which is performing on a very high level.
So is there enough spare DSP to kind of go crazy with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, but we're pushing it to the limit, so it's not a whole lot more that we can do, but there's still some gems in the drawer. Yeah, there's EQs. We have very nice additional lexicon emulations, new models. And what's also very nice, we have classic compressors. This, for example, is the Fairchild emulation. So a very high class, extremely expensive tube compressor. And we have modeled this very thoroughly, so we've got bias control and the balance control of the original model. And again, we do have the dynamic section in every channel, but this is adding a different quality to the sound, so that really is a huge benefit.
So that looks like a 670 rather than a 660, yeah?
Yeah, this 670, right. Yeah. We also got a LA 2A Teletronics.
Right, that kind of stuff.
What's also very interesting, there's a new combinator. I don't know if do you know that name? The Behringer combinator was a multi-band compressor that was produced maybe between 92 and 93 when I joined the company. At that time, that was one of the high-end models from Behringer, which was really often used in German broadcasting environments. And when we discontinued that model because it was extremely demanding analog equipment with 72 VRs that had to be set up in production, then everybody got crazy and wanted to get them, so there was a real craze on the remaining units. And now it's coming back in a digital version on the X32. So it's a 5-band compressor, and we have designed a user interface which is really easy to operate, so you don't have to take care of the individual bands if you're not willing to dive deeply into it. There are some controls that help you set it up easily. There's a thing that we call spectrum balance control, because in a multi-band compressor it can happen that, for example, one of the bands will have a strong gain reduction, and gain reduction means you lower the volume in that band, which changes the frequency response of the output signal. So the spectrum balance control compensates this in the other bands, so you get the compression without changing the sound. And there's a lot of very nifty details in that effect. So you can see there's a host of new effects that is worth a couple of hundreds of dollars of plugins, which are available in a live situation anytime you need it. Yeah, we also got some interesting features on the setup pages, Preamp, where now, for example, you have controls for removing the link between the head-amp gain and the trims. When, for example, a channel is connected to a preamp, currently in the X32, the gain control would control a trim and the analog gain at the same time. Now we can split it up and use the trim and the analog gain separately, which means that when several consoles run signals from the same stage box, they can set up the analog gain during sound check, and then afterwards everybody else could use their own trims without interfering with each other.
How much range do you get with that?
The trims is plus minus 15, I guess. Yeah, it's plus minus 15, yeah. So you set up the analog gain in a reasonable way, and then there's still room enough to move your own processing. And also, which is very interesting for the other consoles in the range, like the X32 Rec or Compact, if you use them close to the stage, for example, you could use them as a stage box. This function now allows you to remote control the head-amps of another console. So, for example, with this console, I could control the head-amps on that console. Right. And that's done very easily. You just connect the console to one of the AES-50 ports and then select which one should be governed by this connection.
Oh, that's good. Great. So a lot of thoughts got into it then?
Yes, indeed.
And when's this going to be available?
Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, GMT -8.
Today, in fact, if you're watching this?
In fact, yes.
Fantastic. And is that full production or is that beta? Or?
It's a public beta because we've included all the functionality that we wanted to be in there. We've read all the forum entries and people were so enthusiastic giving their own ideas, and we tried to bring everything together in a reasonable way. But we would need another 2 to 3 weeks for thoroughly testing the beta. So that's why we give it out now for everybody who's familiarizing himself, but there's no guarantee that there might be bugs in there. and we welcome everybody to report these bugs back to us. Tomorrow on the show here we will even raffle out t-shirts for everybody who's able to bring up a bug here live on station. The X32 version 2 software also includes something that we call acoustic integration, which means that we are using the Ultranet multi-channel digital bus that is by standard used for the personal monitoring system, also for a speaker remote control. So now you can use the IQ series of Turbosound speakers, select one of those speakers, and they can be fed from the Ultranet bus. And then you can select one of for each of the output channels, you can select individual cabinets, active cabinets. They can tap their signal from the bus. So you run one Cat5 cable through multiple cabinets and can address them from the console. And you can also call up specific application presets, like sound presets, EQ tuning for live music, speech or playback, or even user EQ settings that can be stored on the speaker. They can be recalled from the console. And on top of that, we're doing also some physical modeling of the very well-known loudspeaker series. So you can see there's different sorts of cabinets which are emulated here.
So you can set up an entire PA system via Cat5, effectively.
Yeah, effectively you can do that. And you can even model. So if you're setting up your PA system with IQ Turbosound speakers, you could make it sound like a DB system or anything like that. So we have some sound imprints programmed in the cabinets, and they can be recalled from the console surface. So front of house, you choose how it should sound like or what you are familiar to. So that's what we call acoustic integration, and it's also a novelty in the 2.0 firmware of the X32.
So how much further can you go with what's available under the hood and the coding with this before you have to think about new hardware?
Yeah, I think we still, from the list of the 2.0 features, we had to skip some things that will go into a 2.5 release maybe a little bit later. So there's still a lot of things that we want to integrate and improve. But obviously the main constraints are there, so we cannot increase the number of channels, and the number of effects will be more or less limited. So we can still do updates here and there, and that's something that will keep us busy for the next years, I'm sure. But it's an X32, that's the concept, and yeah, we're pretty confident about it.
Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.